All right, good morning, everybody. It's Monday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician, and I think Frank Sundrum is going to call this morning. He may not. I remember he's calling me this. He talked to me, or he messaged me this weekend while I was working on bees about his motorhome, explaining to me. He says, "I have a problem with my air conditioning. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot." And the first question I asked him, I said, well, what kind of system is it? Is it a cycling clutch orifice tube, or does it have an expansion valve? And I think he said it was a 77 motorhome. It's an antique, just about. It is an antique. And the thing about in that era, I should say, they were switching over from expansion valve to orifice tube, which most cars today have. Well, I shouldn't say most cars because it always changes. They were going from expansion valves to orifice tubes is what they're going to. And when they had expansion valves, they also had POA valves on there that can maintain the pressure inside the evaporator, so it had a flooded evaporator. And then they realized that was way too complicated to have an expansion valve with moving parts and a POA valve with moving parts and a compressor with moving parts. And they said, how can we make it where it's less complicated and more efficient? So they came out with a cycling clutch orifice tube. And you say, what's that? CCOT system. And this is where air conditioning started to get modernized, that I should say, where it's got less moving parts, less weight, more efficient by flooding your evaporator, which is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be a cold liquid flood inside your evaporator, not a cold liquid gas. It's not a gas inside there. A lot of people are mistaken. They think that when it goes through that expansion valve or that orifice tube as a hot liquid, it immediately turns into a cold gas. Well, it goes from that, it really is going to a cold liquid. It goes through it to that tiny orifice, gets very, very cold, but it's a liquid. If it was a gas, it would freeze up. But it's a liquid, and it drops it down from, let's just say the temperature going up to the expansion valve of the orifice tube is, let's say it's 130 degrees. So we're in that area, 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. All of a sudden it goes to that tiny orifice and it drops down to like 34, 35 degrees, just above freezing. But it floods the evaporator with a liquid refrigerant. And that's what absorbs the heat that's inside your air conditioning, believe it or not, as that air is being pushed over it. Bring that hot air inside your cabin across that, it absorbs the heat and wrings the moisture out, making it drip on your driveway. That's how air conditioning gets its name. It conditions the air. It literally wrings the moisture out of it. That way, when you turn it on, you feel nice and cold in the morning or the afternoon. Well, this morning, if you get in your car, you turn your air conditioning on. It's probably 70, 75 degrees out there with a 95 to 98% humidity. It's air you can wear. And it's just normal for this part of this is where we live. And that's why air conditioning is not just a luxury. It's almost, it really is considered a necessity. It's a safety item as well as it is a comfort item. And now you're sitting there going, okay, James, you're pushing the envelope. How is it a safety item? Well, it's a safety item because it dehumidifies the air, which allows you to be able to see through your windshield when you turn the defroster on. If you didn't have air conditioning that worked correctly in your car, when you turn your defroster on, you notice how on a morning like today, you'll get that, it'll fog your windows for a split second, then it starts to clear them because it's wringing the moisture out of your air. When you first turn it on, you get an excessive amount of moisture thrown on your windshield, so it fogs it up. And then all of a sudden you see it starting to go away real quick. That's it wringing the moisture out, putting dry air on there, wringing out that moist air, sucking it back into the system, reaching the dew point, letting that water fall out on the ground and get out of the car. And that allows you to be able to see where you're going. I mean, we've all in the past, had a thunderstorm pop up and all of a sudden your windows fog up and you turn on the defroster and you don't think anything about it because I put it on defrost. Well, if you don't have air conditioning, all you're going to get is two little half moons. That's where where the hot air blows onto the windshield. You have to drive looking underneath that. So the point I'm trying to say, it is a safety item as well as it is a comfort item, but it is a safety item to keep your windows dehumidified, to keep you comfortable, and to keep from getting road rage. Because I'll tell you what, when you're hot and sweaty and you're in traffic and your air conditioning doesn't work, and you kind of get irritable. So to me, I think it's a safety item to make sure you don't get your all upset and have crisis management where you get road rage, because we all see those people that get out there and they're hot, they're sweaty, and they're mad at the world, especially, so they cut in front of you or cut around you, and we all see that. So to avoid that, it's nice to have an air conditioning that works. But a lot of people say, well, how do I know, like Frank, how do I know where to begin to fix my air conditioning if it blows hot one minute and cold the next? Well, first off, you need to make sure, is the system fully charged? Now, today's Frank's older model car, he has a sight glass on it, which is a dryer, which you can look down, and when the car is running, if you see bubbles in it, you can say, okay, if I see bubbles, that means it's not fully charged. Remember, this is a 77 model. This is an old R12 system. It may have been converted to 134A. I don't know. The point being is that's the type system it had. But starting in a few years after that, we got rid of the sight glasses. There's no sight glasses on General Motors trucks. I know from I want to say probably from about the early 90s, there's no sight glass on them. There is none. We've gone away from the sight glass to where we do temperature differentials to determine if we got a full charge. And I see these people advertising, well, I shouldn't say people, I see parts stores advertising, buy your can of XYZ coolant to stick in your car if your air conditioning's blowing hot, put this in here, and voila, you instantly have cold air. Yes and no. I want to let you know something. On today's cars, a full can of that, which is around 12 ounces, may be more than what the car can handle, because a lot of cars today only hold, I'd say they're averaging right at a pound. I'd say right at a pound. That's about 16 ounces. And if your car is blowing cool one minute and warm the next, that means it may have about a half a pound in there. It may have lost half its charge. So now you're going to put a can of refrigerant in it on the low side while the car is running, sucking in a liquid that could be possibly compressed or attempted to be compressed by a compressor, and that's almost a surefire way to ruin a $1,000 compressor. Almost guaranteed. So when you see these ads out there talking about, get your air conditioning working today, add our can of refrigerant to it, it doesn't work that way. Years ago, we could get away with it. One, we could charge on the low side away from the compressor. The low side Schrader valve was far enough away. Normally, it wasn't right on top of the compressor. Where today's cars, normally the Schrader valve, the low side's right on the accumulator bottle, or on the line going back to the compressor. It's very, very close. So, and we don't even charge cars up on the low side. We charge them up while they're shut off. That's exactly how you're supposed to do it. So if you're charging a car and you're charging it while it's running, we call it, affectionately, we used to call it suicide cans. I shouldn't say affectionately, because back once upon a time, the high side and low side, there was no difference between the ports. And you could accidentally mess up and put to fill up your air conditioning on the high side, and the can could blow up on you. Not saying it would, but we call them suicide cans because people didn't know what they're doing. Well, now we call them murder cans because you're murdering the compressor. I don't know how many wannabe X-Techs, whatever, throughout the years have come to my shop. Yeah, I tried to charge up my air conditioning, worked cool for about a day and stopped cooling. And I looked at it and I said, well, let's see what's wrong with it. Well, we go out there, start the car, compressor comes on. I grab a hold of the high side and low side line and just feel them. And I notice the high side line is, well, it's not hot. It should be hot. I can hold it. It's just kind of warm. And the low side line, well, it should be cool. And it's kind of warm too, about the same. And so I said, there's something wrong. Either you don't have any refrigerant in here or the compressor's bad. Well, I put it on a set of gauges and I got refrigerant in it, but this just won't compress. I got a low side of 70, 80 PSI, and I got a high side of 90 PSI. That's all it's compressing, maybe 10 PSI. Not going to cool. So we tell the customer, I said, look, you've destroyed the compressor. That's the first place we start. On today's cars, if I take that compressor off and I see little pieces of metal in there, that means I need to change your condenser, which is in front of the car. And some of today's cars charge as much as 4 to 5 hours labor to get to the condenser to change it, to change the dryer I'm serious. It's not an easy job. It's not like it used to be. We got a little dryer over there and 2 bolts and nuts. You can take it off. It's not like that anymore. And a lot of times we have desiccant bags we change. We don't change just the condenser, just the dryer anymore, because it's built into the condenser. And if little pieces of metal get into the condenser or come apart from the compressor, we change the condenser because the holes are so small. We don't dare try to flush them out, because you'll never flush them out. You'll never get all the trash out. You'll just end up tearing up that new compressor again. So it's a lot more involved in doing AC work than it's ever been imagined. You know, the days of just putting the can on there when it's cold, when it's starting to blow cold and warm, I'll just do a little charge on there. You charge that up, you might get by with it once, maybe twice. You might even get by with it one time. I've seen people do it the first time. That's it. So here's what I want to tell you. Find a shop that can find out what's wrong with your air conditioning and fix it and give you a written warranty. At James Auto Center, one of the things we do, we will charge your air conditioning up, and we're going to give you a 1-year written warranty on refrigerant loss. That's right, 1 year. Say you bring your car in, I want my air conditioning, figure out why it's leaking. Well, if we can't find the leak, we do our examination. We say, okay, nothing's leaking but the Schrader valves that we can see. We don't see any physical leak. You know, we could be wrong. There's not a dye in it. Our sniffer's not catching anything. It's able to work like it's supposed to. We charged up, changed the Schrader valves. We always put new Schrader valves and never reuse Schrader valves. That's a big mistake out there. Always change your Schrader valves. I know most shops don't do it, and then they wonder why they have leaks. So change your Schrader valves. Charge up the system exactly what it's supposed to be, exactly plus or minus 1 gram. That's how close it needs to be. Make sure you put a dye in it, and that's what a good shop will do. A little bit of dye in it with oil. It'll migrate through the system, and then we tell our customers we'd like to see you in a week or two. If the system's working great, there shouldn't be any problem, but in a week or two, we're going to know if your air conditioning's not working as well as it should be. Let us look for a leak again. Once we see where the leak is that we couldn't find, and you say, okay, fix the leak, we fix it. We don't charge you again for recharging it. You don't get charged a second time. What our goal is to see if we can find it the first time, because we do not want to have to waste refrigerant. We don't want to. And I know you don't want to as well. So what we try to do is find the problem, address the problem, and fix the problem right the first time. So if you have an air conditioning problem, that's how you go about getting it fixed with a warranty at James Auto Center. There's a lot of people out there that charge $19.95. They'll charge it up on there, but they'll probably charge it up with gauges on the low side while the car is running. And they take a good chance of ruining your compressor. So if a shop you're going to wants to charge your car up, top it off, run away from that shop, because they may damage your compressor. There's no such thing as topping off a compressor in an AC system anymore. Shops that do that are risking a chance of doing damage to the AC compressor. That's not advice just from me. That's from Society of Automotive Engineers. They're telling the best way to do an air conditioning job is to suck it down completely into a vacuum, all the way down. Look up in the manufacturer specifications of how much refrigerant it's supposed to hold, how many ounces, how many grams. Charge it on the high side with the car when it's on a vacuum, after it's passed the leak down test, showing there's no leaks in it. Then charge it up, and after you charge the system up, make sure you get every bit of it out by going through the process. Take the lines off, blow the Schrader valves off where the lines go into. Check it with a leak detector to make sure the brand new Schrader valves aren't leaking, which I've had them leak on me. Brand spanking new ones leak. Make sure they're not leaking. Put the caps back on. Don't leave them off. And that should take care of the system. Then make sure that you have certain temperature differentials on the condenser and the evaporator. Hey, this is James Morris. We're up against the clock. We'll be right back. I think I got Scott Hobbs calling from Mr. Reader. We'll be right back talking about preventive maintenance for your home, your business, whatever it is. When it comes to plumbing, preventive maintenance goes a long way, even on your cars, as we've talked about. We'll be right back. Summer is here and the days are getting longer and hotter. Call James Auto Center for a free cooling system evaluation and consultation. Give us a call, 850-763-0555 today.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our Monday morning edition. I wish it was Sunday still, Scott. Good morning, Scott. How we doing, sir?
I'm great. I'm glad it's Monday, but I enjoyed my Sunday.
I did too. I got to go play with bees, and that's what I like to do. Went up to my tiny house and came by and counted all my little colonies. They keep growing, and kind of like I like growing bugs. I really is, but
Yeah.
bugs are fun. But one of
They're beneficial bugs.
they are great beneficial bugs. But that's one of the things we've been talking about. Believe it or not, Scott, we've been talking about beneficial bugs in your septic tank. And and I guess what we're talking about is growing those beneficial bugs instead of killing them. So people, I guess, are, if they use this BioChoice we've been talking about here, I thought I had it down here, I don't have it anymore, but this BioChoice, that grows those beneficial bugs. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. You've got, obviously, bad bacteria and good bacteria.
Uh-huh.
And your plumbing system and your septic system needs good bacteria to function properly the same way your body does.
True. Because we don't have those probiotics. That's why I've raised bees. That's a food. Honey is food for the probiotics in your system. It's not a probiotic, but it's food for them. But it's something that benefits my system. But this BioChoice we're talking about, when and how did that come about? I mean, is this something that Mr. Rooter came up with years ago, or some scientist, or how does that actually come about? How'd they figure this out?
No, that's it's been years and years. I can't tell you the exact history of when it started, but we actually have a manufacturer specially engineer this bacteria for Mr. Rooter, and the company that does it actually started out by producing the cultures for yogurt to produce yogurt. So it's a very similar strain, but engineered specifically for the plumbing system and the septic system, and it is the particular way that it's done is for us. And what's really neat about it is it's not a powder. It's not a inert. It's live bacteria in that bottle right now. So, a lot of people will ask, well, what about, using yeast or using some other form of powder? And I say, maybe that won't hurt. It's an organic, product. But the thing about the BioChoice is it's in a liquid form. The bacteria is alive right now. And when it goes into the system, it starts feeding on the fats, oils, and grease, and it begins to multiply. We know bacteria multiply, so if it has a good food source, it's going to just continue to grow and continue to multiply. Where we get into trouble is when we interject some kind of a chlorine or alcohol-based type product or water softeners that have salt, or we take excessive antibiotics in our system, and those are the things that kill off the good bacteria.
And those things right there that you just mentioned, I venture to say at least all those things take place in my household at least once a month. Where antibiotics, are being used by someone in the household, or someone uses bleach, and lets it go down the drain, or someone is doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Alcohol, you clean something with alcohol, it goes down your drain. You don't think about it. And I mentioned last week about a way to make the BioChoice drip automatically? Because that seems to be the biggest drawback I get is people were, they've got it remembering to use it. They say, I bought it and I forgot to use it. Now, how long have you had it now? Over a year. How many times you used it? Hadn't used it in 10 months. Right. Maybe there's a problem here. Now,
that's right.
My last video we did last week had a lot of people asking about the automatic drip method. Is it as expensive to hook up? Because I had some people say, I would like to get BioChoice, but the problem I got is forgetting about it. Is there a way they can put it on where it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and maybe once every month or two when it runs out, a little light comes on and tells me to redo it? And I said, I don't know. I'll ask Scott if they got something like that.
Yeah, so it's not extremely expensive. And to be honest with you, it's probably not that much more expensive than you buying the bottle. It's just a little bit of upfront cost because you have to go with a 2.5 gallon bottle, large bottle, or you can go with a 5 gallon bucket of the BioChoice. And of course, you have to get the dispenser. It's either battery operated or operated through an outlet. So I'm okay with the battery operated because you have to go out and replenish the BioChoice. So that's the time to double check your battery and make sure everything's working. Or it could be in a place that you can't get to, get power to without a lot of expense. So it's not an expensive endeavor, and it's something that can be done. The only challenge that you may have is you got to put it somewhere. You have to have it on the outside of the house, so it's going to be seen. So
that's right.
Some folks may or may not want to have that, in their yard by their out, or may not want to have it, in a place in the house. If you have a laundry sink, maybe in your garage, that would be a great place to let it just drip into the laundry sink, and that would get it into the entire system.
Something as simple, that's what I'm talking about, because that's what I have found out happening. Even in auto repair, people know about getting oil changes. We've been doing that for the longest time, and the hardest thing I have to break them is 3 months, 3,000 miles. For years and years and years, we preached it. Now we don't preach that. Now we preach 6 months, 6,000 miles, because the oils have gotten so much better. The filters have gotten so much better. And so we actually save customers time and money by coming in once or twice a year instead of 4 times a year. But the problem is reminding them. I have to put stickers on the dash staring at them, the date to come in. Because if I put it up in the window, it fades out and they forget about it. But if I put it right on the dash, in 6 months come back, they usually show up because it's staring at them. But that's the thing I've noticed about BioChoice. People get it. They're excited about it. It works for them. They use it 1, 2, 3 months, and all of a sudden, out of sight, out of mind. They forget about it. 3, 4, 6, 8 months roll around. Next thing I know, they got a slow drain again. And I speak from experience. That's why I'm saying that. Right. And that's why I'm saying maybe there's got to be a way that it will automatically dispense into your laundry sink like you're talking about, out of sight, out of mind, where it goes in there, it does its thing, and that's what needs to be done. People need to figure out a way that's automatically doing it to save them time and money, and they can contact you and get information on this, and y'all can see if there's a good place for it to be set up in the house when y'all do your inspection.
Sure. The only challenge that I do see with that train of thought that we're working on is, each individual drain should get a dose of BioChoice, like your tub drain, your lavatory, your kitchen, and that may be difficult or cost prohibitive to have an automatic drip on every fixture. But your main drain, like if you have a septic system or something that has a high volume of fats, oils, and grease being interjected into, we do a lot of these on restaurants.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It is phenomenal. It works great.
That's what I was thinking about. Maybe this might not be the greatest thing in the world because you have to put it on each end. But if your kitchen sink is, the worst one that you're probably getting most of your fats, oils, and grease going down, I would have it where my kitchen sink got a dose of it on a regular basis, I guess, and everything else, secondary. But on these restaurants, y'all are doing it mainly on the drains and the kitchens, I'm presuming. That one drain there, is that what we're doing?
Right. So in a commercial restaurant, a commercial kitchen, the kitchen drain is run separately from the sanitary, from the bathrooms, and it comes out together and goes into a grease trap, and then it meets back up with the sanitary drain after it leaves the grease trap. So if we get it into that kitchen drain up on the high end, and it can filter through that entire kitchen drain into the grease trap, they save a ton of money on unexpected stoppages that shut down the whole restaurant, and pumping out grease traps. It reduces that need.
Because I was reading today where restaurants get closed down, not for just having little critters, bugs growing around, but for having grease traps that are backing up. I had no idea what a major a problem that is, but out on the beach, especially during the summertime, if those grease traps can fill up, well, someone was telling me if they don't get them pumped out every couple of weeks, they can have problems. I'm going, really? And they go, yep. I'm going, I had no idea.
Sure, and there's some municipalities that are to the west of us.
Yes.
And it'll probably come this way eventually, that require you to prove that you had your grease trap pump, and it depends on your type of restaurant, either every 3 months or every 6 months or whatever the case may be, because it wreaks such havoc on the municipal system when they don't.
Wow, I had no idea. So if you're not taking care of your own property, it actually ends up going and hurting other people's property too. Is that what you're saying? It could
sure. So
stop their life.
You know, and we talk about the difference between BioChoice and an enzyme.
Yes.
And if that restaurant is using some type of enzyme, it's loosening that fats, oils, and grease, making it liquid, and then it gets down into the city system and solidifies, and it pushes the problem into the city, and then it causes, you know, maybe a block of the city to back up, or other industrial businesses that, you know, it just creates a problem.
So if people want to be good, if they want to be good neighbors to their neighbors when it comes to if they have a restaurant, and don't use an enzyme, but use something like BioChoice, which is not an enzyme, that keeps it in a liquid form, never lets it reformulate back into a solid. Is that correct?
Well, the BioChoice actually turns it into water.
Yes,
so
what I mean.
It digests the fats, oils, and grease, and it goes away.
Goes away, so it doesn't come back down the line as another solid fat, oils, and grease again. It does, it doesn't.
That's correct.
It doesn't show up like Crisco when it's hot and then gets cold. It turns out into big fat grease. Okay, that's interesting. I had no idea of knowing. That's pretty darn good. So this is something that if people aren't knowing about, if they don't know about this, like I said, I had a lot of people ask. I had about 4 or 5 people ask me about it. I went, this is something you need to ask them about. This is a product that if you have a restaurant that's got a lot of fats, oils, and grease, which is just about any restaurant out there, you need this to save you time, money, and aggravation, because there's nothing worse than having a backed up sewer system right in the middle of dinner time. No one wants that smell or that aggravation.
Sure.
And plus they can shut you down. You get your health department. I had no idea until I was reading in the paper today about this stuff right here. Scott, if they want to know more about you, we got about 20 seconds left. What would you recommend them calling? Who call it?
They can call the office at 763-2001 as our main line. Anybody there can help them, get them set up with an appointment. And like you say, we're open 7 days a week, no extra charge, weekends and nights.
That's wonderful. I tell you what, Scott Hobbs, I need to give you a call. 763-2001. Give him a call today. Tell him the Master Auto Tech sent you, and we'll be back tomorrow morning, everybody. Bye-bye. Summer is here, and the days are getting longer and hotter. Call James Auto Center for a free cooling system evaluation and consultation. Give us a call, 850-763-0555 today.
Beep, 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 yeah!
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.